Yeah, remember when I said it was the most professional show I've ever been last time out? Yeah, this might be the least professional. I think this is the bum version of Power Oversteer, I think. So yeah, this is not going. This is not going to go well at all. Roll with it. Hey, I'm Kev Kerr, Mr. Kerr, and welcome to Power Oversteer, the little motorsport show on the ElusiveKev channel. And yeah, it looks a bit different this episode. That's just because I can't really record it well I normally record it. So yeah, this is in a different place, and as you can tell, I'm not as dressed as I normally am, but it's got the same content, it's got the same information, and hopefully it'll be just as entertaining as it always is. Don't shake your heads back there. But yeah, in this episode we're going to look at the St. Petersburg race of the Indycar, the season opener in Florida this weekend. We're going to look at the race, we're going to look at the winners and losers, and of course we're going to look at who was the driver of the race, team of the race, and maybe even an overtake of the race. But firstly, let's do the race recap. So the race recap, and in qualifying, Will Power was on par with Takuma Sato of AJ4 alongside him on the front row. Quite an explosive front row, and how to get away, Will Power just got away at the front. Sato was still behind him though, and in the first 10 laps it was just status quo in the top 10 really. You saw Sato behind Will Power, you saw James Hinchcliffe in an Andretti Autosport car in third, Helio Castroneves, Penske teammate of Will Power, in fourth, and Simona Di Silvestro of KV Racing, great debut from her for the team, in the top 5. Yeah, Tristan Volge, great debut for him in the series. The last year's Indy Lights champion was sixth for Smith, Peterson, Hamilton, HP Motorsports. I think I got all of that. Then Canan Di Silvestro's teammate Marco Andretti doing a good start to the year. The reigning champion Ryan Hunterway in 9th, and Sebastian Zaveja in the Dragon Racing car was in 10th, and that was after lap 10, and Power built a lead up. He was building up to 5 seconds at the front. Further back, Ganassi, they weren't having a good race at all. Scott Dixon, qualified 20th, was still stuck in the middle of the pack, and Dario Franchitti had dropped out of the top 10 after being overtaken from Hunterway, Zaveja, and by Grain Rahal in turn 1 on lap 12. And the pit stops happened early with Alex Tagiani of the Barracuda Racing team pitting on lap 14 due to high degradation of these red Firestone tyres. Just like in F1, they have to use 2 compounds per race. They have these red Firewall tyres, the softer, more degrading tyres, and of course the hard white sidewalled tyres. And so the fronts were really going off, causing understeer for them, and a few drivers really complained about this. Simon Pagenaud of Smith, Peterson, Hamilton, HP Motorsports also pitted on that lap. And then Helio Castroneves, he was close behind Hinchcliffe, who was close behind Sato. Now on lap 17, Castroneves finally made a move into turn 1. Great move there. Scott Dixon, he's struggling with his understeer as well. And then Castroneves all over Sato, really, from the off when passing Hinchcliffe. But on lap 20, Dario Franchitti, the 4-time champion, he brought out the caution flag, first caution of the race, or first yellow flag, sorry, of the race, when he just pitted for tyres and he went wide in turn 3, I believe it is, and he just hit the wall, just grazed the wall with his left hand side of his car, just wrecked it, and that was the caution. Everyone pitted basically, and then Graham Rahal in the pits almost hit JR Hildebrand. He was leaving the pits and JR was going into his pits, and Will Power pitted and came back out into the lead, and it stayed under caution until lap 27, when at the restart into turn 1, Will Power just braked a bit cautiously. Helio Castroneves took the advantage, went round the outside, and so it's a Penske 1-2 with the Brazilian, last year's St. Petersburg winner, in the lead. And Then down the order there was another caution came out because there was a bit of nudging about there. J.R. Hildebrand hit James Jakes, and also Sebastian Zavasia went into the wall after being hit by Hildebrand in turn 10. Quite a popular overtaking spot, turn 10 on this track. And you had Newgarden who pitted for New Nose, so he had contact, and you had EJ Viso and a Beatrix, and Oil Server also involved in contact in turn 7 or turn 8, just after Hildebrand hit Jakes in turn 7. In turn 8 there was a few cars that had gone off or just stopped, and unfortunately Simon Pagenaud retired during this time on that 27 with an engine issue. He suffered with engine issues throughout the weekend, and unfortunately the Frenchman, who was Rookie of the Year last year, finishing 5th in the championship, had to retire. And so we had another few laps of caution, and then on that 33 it went green, and Cashinevis held on to the lead from Power. Then Di Silvestro went past Sato in turn 1 on that 35, and then Hinchcliffe, he was making his way through the field, and Will Power just outbraked himself into turn 1, and Hinchcliffe took advantage and went through on that 36. Then the caution came out for Debris in the last corner. Been a bit of contact, and it was on the racing line, so caution came out on that 45, and for 10 laps we had this caution flag. And who was in the lead? Oil Serbia, the Panther Giant Rainbow driver. He was on a different strategy. He didn't pit, and so he was in the lead ahead of Cashinevis, Hinchcliffe, Power, and Tristan Volche, who's done a superb job on his debut in the series. And then we went to green, and on the next lap Hunter Ray passed Sato for 12th in turn 1. They of course had pitted, and so they're a bit down the order. And you also saw Wilson and Scott Dixon go side by side in turns 1 and 2 on that 58, so it was great action throughout the field. But this is a long race, 110 laps this year, up 10 laps from last year, to help prevent these fuel saving races that have been happening in recent years in IndyCar. And so they kind of extended the race distance, hoping they would push a bit for 3 pit stops during this race. And there was a group behind Marco Andretti for 8th, who was going a bit slow at this part of the race, but from the front Oil Server pitted on lap 62. Unfortunately couldn't get out of the pits with a possible gearbox issue, and that was his race run. And then Joseph Newgarden pitted the lap after, and then we saw Ryan Hunter-Reay, a bit slow in out of turn 10 on lap 64. He got hit from behind by Graham Rahal. Didn't really see him, going slowly, so there was a bit of damage on his front wing, and he had to pit. And Hunter-Reay came into the pits. He was stuck in there for a few laps and came out on lap 68. And after that, Tristan Volche had a great race running in the top 5. He pitted from 4th, and unfortunately he had a problem and he retired from the race. But that was with 40 laps ago, and it was setting up nicely with Cashinevis in the lead, Hinchcliffe behind, Will Power in 3rd, Di Silvestro in 4th, and Canaan in 5th. Very strong race for KV Racing in 4th and 5th at the moment. Then we had a caution come out. Sebastian Vasia went into the wall in turn 10 to bring out that caution, and unfortunately for the Dragon Racing driver, that was his end of a very good run. And then under caution we had a crazy incident. J.R. Hildebrand wasn't paying attention, he was staring at his steering wheel, and he didn't looked up and saw Will Powers going slowly in front in the straight between turns 8 and 10. There's a bend there that classifies as turn 9, and so during that bend you saw him just go up the gears instead of going down the gears and braking like Will Power was, and he went over the right hand side of Will Power, actually went over the bumpers. And it was very lucky that he didn't actually go into the cockpit. You just saw him go down the side of the car, and unfortunately that was him into the wall, and that was him out of the race. And Will Power, he lost his right front ring mirror, he had some damage to the bumper to the back, so he had to pit to get that sorted out, and he pitted again to get his right front wing mirror finally workable, because they just slapped it on, so they just slapped it on and then put him out so he wouldn't go a lap down. Then he came back in the next lap to get that fixed. But that was the end of a very good run for Will Power, unfortunately. And so it went green on lap 85, and James Hinchcliffe took the lead from Cashinevis when he outbraked himself into turn 1. Great race for Andretti here, as Andretti went down the inside of Dixon into turn 1 as well, but then Dixon just held it on the outside and got the inside line for turn 2, so some great racing there. And on that 90 it was now Hinchcliffe in the lead with Cashinevis behind, Di Silvestro in 3rd. Brilliant race from her. Kanaan in 4th and Andretti in 5th. And then we had Tekulani go past Carpenter on that 92 for 10th for Carpenter. Not the greatest road racer, and so he was just falling back in the latter parts of the race. But we had Hinchcliffe and Castroneves never celebrate more than a second for the rest of the race, but in the end it was Hinchcliffe who held on from Castroneves for his first win in the IndyCar series, in the car that on the week that Dan Weldon had a memorial put up in his hometown St. Pete's, the car that Dan Weldon was going to drive in 2012. Unfortunately he didn't, and Hinchcliffe drove that car. You know, he dedicated that win to Dan, and you know he gets his name to be put on that memorial, and he couldn't. It's like it was all planned. You know, it's like it's planned up there, just like the last year's Indy 500 when Frank Kitty won from Dixon and Kanaan, like all Dan Weldon's great friends in the series. So yeah, that was a very emotional win, and you know, Castroneves did try in those last few laps. He did take a look into turn 1, but eventually Castroneves just held on. Further back, Powell was making his way through the field, going past Carpenter, past all of this bunch of cars that were behind Carpenter. There was a Kimball made his way past that as well, but Dixie Silvestro just couldn't hang on to 3rd in the end. She had trouble with tyre pressures. You know, she was running these tyres really longer than you really should, and she had Kanaan right behind her in the last few laps. But then we had Will Power spinning turn 4, and you know, the right rear just got a bit loose as he was braking, and it just made him go down the escape road, and he dropped down to 16th out of the top 10, and so that just compounded a very poor second half of the race. Just an unlucky race for him. But eventually who got 3rd? Well, I said it was Marco Andretti. He went down the inside of Tony Khan on lap 106 in turn 1, great passing spot, and then Andretti took a knock on the next lap, but Di Silvestro just held on a bit there, and then on lap 108 Di Silvestro just outbraked herself in the last turn, just couldn't get it in, and so Andretti went up to 3rd, and Kanaan got past Di Silvestro down the straight into 4th. But that wasn't the end of it, because on the last lap, as they were going across the line out of the corner, Di Silvestro didn't quite get the run going, but Dixon behind her just got a brilliant run down the inside. Then EJV, so out of nowhere, went down the inside of Dixon, so it's 3 wide across the line, and Dixon, he got 5th, Di Silvestro 6th, and Viso 7th. Takuma Sato got 8th in the end, and Alex Tekulani got 10th, and I think that is the top 10. And so it was a brilliant race, brilliant start to the action all the time, and we actually saw teammates battling, which is quite good to see. But it might have cost Penske a bit of the race as well, with Power and Castroneves fighting, and Hinchcliffe just took advantage of these two guys who really pushing too hard. But that is the race recap, and as I was talking a bit about there, let's go and see the winners and losers from this race. So the winners and losers of the first round of this IndyCar season. Well, there's 25 drivers and 14 teams, so this could last for quite a while. But let's start at the top. Let's look at Penske, and they really had a mixed day. Castroneves got 2nd, but Power again suffered bad luck by getting hit by Hildebrand, who wasn't really looking at what he was doing, and he admitted to that mistake in his interview, Hildebrand. And Power, just after the race, he said, I haven't had a lucky race since Brazil last year. He always has these runs where he's lucky or unlucky, and at the moment he's just stuck in that unlucky phase, it seems. But the pace is there, getting another pole, and in Barber Park he's normally strong there, so look for him to maybe be up there again, and hopefully not get taken out under caution or spinning in corners late in the race to dine himself a top 10. But Castroneves is another strong one at St. Petersburg. He's always done very well there. Won last year, of course, and 2nd this year. But again, he made a mistake to let Hinchcliffe through, and maybe if the two guys went fighting at the front tonight, we would have in Formula 1, they have team orders. And Penske in IndyCar, we don't really have team orders in this series, so, or it's not as publicised as in F1 or scrutinised. So yeah, that's kind of a mixed bag for Penske. Andretti, they had a very good race, of course, Hinchcliffe winning, and Marco Andretti coming in 3rd, and Hunter Ray, the reigning champion, in the top 10, and Viso in the top 10 as well in 7th. So it was a very good race for Andretti, and then it's like that 4-car operation hasn't really affected him at the moment, but down the line it might affect them again, like it did in 2010, 2011, 2009, where they really did suffer down the line with this 4-car format. So maybe it's a good start, but we're going to be wary of them as the season goes on. And the other big team, Chip Ganassi, and dreadful qualifying and a very good race from Dixon, up in 5th, the top Honda driver, and there were only 400 drivers in the top 10, and the rest were 8th, 9th and 10th, so very good effort from Dixon. Franchitti just went backwards in the race, and of course he crashed, so it's another mixed bag for Chip Ganassi. AJ Foyt with Sato on the front row and the top 10, very solid debut with the team. Even though he went backwards in the race, I think that was a very good job from Sato, and he kept his nose clean for once, so that's always a plus with him. We have Barracuda Racing with Alex Tagliani, top 10 finish for him, very good race from, again, not really qualifying where he wanted, but again he worked his way in the race, came into 10th and came back from a very early pit stop, pitted on that 14 I think I said. So yeah, the strategy worked out in the end with all these cautions, and a very good race from him, very veteran like race from Tagliani there. That's what you want from your veterans, to get these solid results, and he did there with a top 10. And we have Dragon Racing, Bourdais just outside the top 10 in the end. He was anonymous all weekend. It was a very strange weekend from Bourdais. You do expect him to be in the top 10, especially on these road and street courses, so it was a very strange weekend for him. He's outperformed by Cerveja for most parts of the raceway until Cerveja got hit by Hildebrandt and then crashed into turn 10, so he did that twice. And yeah, mixed bag for them, especially with Cerveja getting out, but it's very good Cerveja this year. It's very much rejuvenated from the Cerveja we saw in 2011 at Conquest, a team that's not very good at all, self-admittedly. So yeah, it's good to see that he had a good run and might be closer to Bourdais than we expect, but of course it's the first race of the year and we can't really take too much from it for the rest of the year for the other 18 races. And there's KV Racing, they had Di Silvestro and Canaan, and brilliant race for them, basically in the top 5 for most of it, with both of their drivers, Canaan working his way up from qualifying, Di Silvestro just staying up there. And it looks like Di Silvestro does have that potential, that talent. It looks like it's not just potential anymore, it is actually talent, and Tina just in a good team, good environment for her to perform well, it seems. So it looks like it's very promising start to the year for her. And for Kanani, he always does a great job in the races. He doesn't qualify that well, but he does get through the order and does work his way up there in the races very well indeed. And we've got Sarah Fisher Hartman racing with Joseph Newgarden. He had couple of accidents, it seems, where he changed his front wing, and in the end he had to retire early with a problem around lap 60. So again, not the best weekend for Newgarden, not the start of the year they wanted, but something that they just have to build from that. You can't really go much further down. So we've got Smith, Hamilton, Peterson, HP Motorsports. I said that wrong again. But I had Pagano, he had problems with his engine all weekend, it's not very good for him. But Tristan Volche, revelation, only rookie I think in the series, so he's going to win Rookie of the Year. But yeah, he qualified. He was in the fast 6, qualified in the top 6, and was in the top 5 when he retired on that 70. So he had a brilliant run, and him and Di Silvestro really the best drivers this weekend, apart from Hinchcliffe of course and Castroneves. So yeah, that was a great debut from him. Really looking forward to seeing more from Voltier, and there's loads of other teams. No, but yeah, those are the main winners and losers. Beatty had a Carpenter as well, and he never really does well on these type of tracks. He had Charlie Kimball in the other Ganassi car, who just finished outside the top 10, so yeah, there's an okay race for him, and their Carpenter near the back, so it's kind of normal for him Now you had Dale Coyne with Justin Wilson in 9th, so good solid run from the Briton, not the best qualifying, but again working way up the order. And Anna Beatrice, his teammate this weekend, unfortunately she had a crash. She was involved in that incident with Servia and co, and so she didn't really have the best weekend either, qualifying near the back. So, but she might be back in Brazil, of course, because she's been driving and she's been driving there for the past few years in that race. So we might see her again, and hope she does a better job than she did this weekend. We have James Jakes, we have Rahul Letterman, we have Graham Rahal. It's not a good weekend for them. James Jakes, of course, getting caught up by Hildebrand, pushing him off a bit, and he was running quite well in the top 10 at times, so there's encouraging pace for him. And Graham Rahal just got stuck in the midfield. He's up and down the midfield. He got caught up, as I said, by Hunter Ray. He had to change his front wing, and yeah, it wasn't the weekend I think we really expected from Rahal. He won this event in 2008, and we have Panther Giant and Reinbold, and that's not a weekend they really wanted. I know Server again led the race. He did show promise, but again the car just let him down, and Hildebrand, he made a mistake under caution, and you've been looking to cut those out. You've been looking to pay attention under cautions now. So yeah, that is the winners and losers. Mostly, I'd say, in the middle between that. A few winners such as Andretti, and a few losers such as Rahal, but yeah, it's mostly in the middle. So let's look at the awards, the race rewards, of the race. So driver of the race, very difficult decision here, because we have James Hinchcliffe, of course, won his first race, always up there in the Chevrolet powered Andretti Autosport machine. We have Tristan Volche, debut in the series in the Fast 6, in the top 6 in qualifying, and then he's right up there in the race in 4th when he retired. So incredibly impressive debut for him in the Smith Pearson Hamilton HP Motorsports machine. I hope I don't have to say that a lot. I might just acclimate it, just SPH. I think that would be better. But yeah, very strong debut from him, outperforming Pagano, even though Pagano did have many troubles with the engine all weekend, and that did see him retire in the race. Di Silvestro, Simona Di Silvestro, we see a potential. She came with a potential, but it looks like there is very much talent there in the KV racing machine. Qualified up there in the top 5 and was running up there in the top 5 all race long until 100 metres from the end, virtually over the line, when Dixon outdragged her to the finish line, and almost Vito did it as well. But she did a great job holding on those worn tyres as well from Andretti, from a line of cars, basically the rest of the top 10 behind her. And Tony Kannon as well, her teammate, didn't qualify that well, but in the race he just a veteran race from him, getting into 4th place in the end. And Marco Andretti as well qualified top 10 and finished 3rd, and Helio Castroneves as well finishing 2nd, but he did make a mistake. Then Chikafu's gonna rules him out. Will Power as well on pole, and he was right up there until he made mistakes that Castroneves through, and then he got taken out and under caution, and then he made a mistake late in the race to drop himself outside of the top 10. So I think this will actually go to James Hinchcliffe, and I think team of the race as well goes to Andretti Autosport. He got all 4 drivers in the top 10. Can't really ask for a much better start to the year than that. And as I said, most Chevrolet powered in top 10, 6 out of 10, and 4 of those were Andretti Autosport. So that was a brilliant job from the team this weekend. And overtake of the race, well, that goes to Takuma Sato. We know his moves from F1 as well, mostly crashes moves as well, mostly crashing in IndyCar, but he did a brilliant move near the end of the race, passing Justin Wilson for 8th, where he would finish. On that before, he wasn't quite close enough to make the move, so he just stayed behind. But on the next lap, just darted down the inside into turn 4. Not the best overtaking spot, but he made it into a great overtaking move. Runner up would be Castroneves round the outside of Power on the restart to take the lead, and that was a very good race, and there were great moves into turn 1 with Andretti on Di Silvestro. He had Franchitti taken by Hunter very, very early in the race as well. There's lots of great moves throughout this race, and that is my review of it. Hope you enjoyed it. I will be a bit more sharp at dressed next time. I might even shave a bit. I've got a bit of a beard going on a bit. I'll be a bit more professional next time, I promise. But yeah, I hope you have enjoyed this. I'll be back with Indycar on Power Oversteer for the second round in Barber Park Motorsports. But so much for watching, so till next time, cheerio. Before I go, yeah, there were other series this weekend as well, the World Touring Car Championship and AutoGP Series in Monza, and that was basically power boating this weekend. There's so much rain going on there, but it's a good start to the season for Van Muller, it seems. So even though RML aren't no Chevrolet backed official team anymore, they do have Chevrolet cars, and things like the Chevs did very well. So Tom Chilton qualified on the front row as well, the brother of Max Chilton, you know, who's at Marussia in F1. So yeah, good start to the season for them, it seemed. And there was also the European Rally Championship in Canaries, and there was a certain familiar face at the front for most of it, a certain Robert Kubica, you know, who unfortunately was in F1 with BMW, won the 2008 Canadian Grand Prix, and then unfortunately had this huge accident in 2011 in a rally, and for the past 2 years he's basically been rehabbing, basically been trying to get into it. And in late 2012 he started to do some rallies. He did the Rally to USA and he was leading that by miles, and then unfortunately he misheard a pace, or they had a wrong pace note, and he crashed out. But in Canary he was dominating. He won every stage he took part in, apart from the one he crashed crashed in the morning leg on day 2, but he had over a minute lead to Jan Kopecki in the Skoda, and in his Citroen DS3 RRC, unfortunately, he just took a bend too fast. This downhill right hand, he just braked a bit too late. Back end got away, went into the wall, and unfortunately just ripped the suspension, and he was out. And Jan Kopecki won that rally from Craig Bryan in the Peugeot 207, and Lewis Monzon, who's actually the organizer of the rally, was in a Mini John Cooper Works RRC. So very good draw from those three, and Kopecki leads the championship now, the European Rally Championship, after 3 rounds. But yeah, that's a bit of a side note on what else going on. There was NASCAR, and I hope Denny Hamlin, you know, recovers from his back fracture after a horrendous accident on the last lap in Fontana, or the Auto Club Speedway. And Tony Stewart, if you have to search it on YouTube, he did a very entertaining interview about Joey Logano, and there was a bit of a fight near the end. And NASCAR living up to its WWE reputation of being the WWE of motorsports, and it really did show it this weekend. But next weekend is the British Touring Car Championship, and NASCAR again to tide you over, and the British Touring Car Championship is on ITV4, and NASCAR on internet. But yeah, there's a bit about the other stuff that was on this weekend. So yeah, I'm off now. Bye.